Hello and welcome to the BA Sports Podcast. I'm your host Brady, and today we are going to be going over the running back position in the draft prep series. This episode is going to be all about running backs. We're going to be evaluating the top running backs, their projected performances, fantasy value, and I'm going to be discussing my sleeper picks, breakout candidates, and potential bust candidates as well. I'm also going to be offering draft strategies for drafting the running back position, and this kind of goes into drafting the other positions, in which I'll touch on in later episodes. The wide receivers, tight ends, those go hand in hand with how you want to draft your running backs, how you want to build your team. So this is going to be extra helpful for you. So let's get right into the episode. If you are listening on the audio side, please click that follow button, rate us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That would greatly help us grow our audience. And if you're listening on the video side on YouTube, subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications when we go live. And yeah, let's get right into the episode. So, this is the running back episode. I'm going to go over kind of some injured players from last year that we're going to be evaluating, that are probably two of them are top 12 running back picks, and honestly maybe more than two. But yeah, we're talking about a couple of them to start off here. Let's go right into the injuries. Brees Hall is coming off a grade 3 ACL tear and a meniscus tear that happened back last October. And players usually coming off of an ACL injury are not productive in their following year. It usually takes them a year or two to get back to where they were. So I'm going to be a little cautious drafting Brees Hall this year, and I urge you to do the same. The only running back to have an insane performance after an ACL tear was Adrian Peterson. He was the running back one after he tore his ACL. So I don't think Brees Hall is going to be able to put up Adrian Peterson numbers. Adrian Peterson is a once in a lifetime special back. I think Brees Hall is not going to be there, but you never know. If you think he can, then draft him. But for me, I'm staying away because of his ACL injury last year. And then next up, Tony Pollard fractured left fibula in the playoffs. Horrible way. It was just like a horrible tackle that he went down. That happened in January of this year. He should be ready to go. Him and Brees Hall still up in the air if they're going to make their season debut in week one. Javonte Williams is also another ACL guy. He tore his ACL and LCL grade 3. This happened at the beginning of October, so he's got a couple weeks on the Brees Hall injury, and he's said to be making really good progress. They took him off the pup list, so he should be there to start training camp. This bodes well for him going week one, but I'm going to be a little cautious drafting Javonte Williams. At his current ADP, I'd feel comfortable about it, but I'd still be a little optimistic. Samaje Perine is not a bad handcuff if you pick Javonte Williams in a later round. Next up is going to be J.K. Dobbins. This is his second year back from an ACL tear, grade 3. However, he did have cleanup surgery on that knee this offseason. I don't know if that'll affect him at all, but I like J.K. Dobbins more than the other guys just because he's not coming off of the ACL tear like from this past year. He's had a couple years to kind of recuperate that knee, but he just really can't stay on the field, in my opinion. So I'm kind of staying away. It's kind of a prove it year for J.K. Dobbins, and people love him. I love him, but I just think there are too many mouths to feed in that offense, and I'll go into why later. Another player coming off injuries, James Conner. He's just been hurt last year. He's been hurt the prior years prior to that, but he has really good value right now, and I'll get into why later. I kind of like drafting him in certain scenarios, but don't draft him thinking he's not going to get hurt, because he seemingly gets hurt for a week or two at least every year. But now that we've got the running back injuries out of the way, I'm going to go into my running back tiers slash rankings. So first up, let's get into my RB1. My RB1 is going to be Christian McCaffrey. This is kind of a no brainer. He is the RB1 that I think all of you should have. He has done it before and he exploded before. 471 PPR points in 2019. He won by like over 150 magnificent performance. He just put up his third best year last year, scoring 356 fantasy points, which, I mean, that guy last year was insane to watch. However, he has been in the league 6 years. He is age 27. He has some questionable issues with his injury history in 2020, 2021. And if you take that away, he's been a really, really productive back. I like drafting Christian McCaffrey, except I think drafting a wide receiver first, like Justin Jefferson at the 1-1 instead of Christian McCaffrey, is my preference. But Christian McCaffrey, if you get him maybe second, third, fourth overall, I don't mind it. It's just you got to know he's going to get hurt possibly at any moment he can. So why not grab a handcuff in Elijah Mitchell? Also, for people who don't know what a handcuff is, it's essentially the backup running back to the starting running back. And they call it a handcuff because if your starter goes down, then you have your handcuff ready and he will be starting for you if that player misses significant time. The third string running back in that offense is Jordan Mason. Not too worried about him. Elijah Mitchell really has the potential to eat into Christian McCaffrey's carries, though, because Elijah Mitchell is pretty productive and he's younger. I really like Christian McCaffrey, though. He is my RB1. This is also my tier one for now. He is tier one. Tier one. Next up, overall rank number 2, Jonathan Taylor. I really think Jonathan Taylor can explode this year. There is a seemingly a curse around running backs going first in drafts. Christian McCaffrey had that curse whenever he went first in 2020, got hurt. I mean, last year, Jonathan Taylor had that curse, couldn't stay healthy. And I'm wondering if this is the year Jonathan Taylor gets on track. He's going number 2 overall in my drafts. For myself, I would be the person to take him number 2, the running back 2, that is, because I think he can explode. He's only 24 years old. He's been in the league 3 years. He's scored 373 fantasy points in 2021. He was the top running back in 2021. In 2020, he had a really good year too. But I mean, okay, so last year, yeah, it wasn't great, but he has the potential to be great. We've seen it before, and I think he can. This offensive line is really, really strong for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think Jonathan Taylor can explode this year, which is why I have him running back 2. Running back 3 for me, Bijan Robinson. Rookie or not, you're going to draft him high. He's going to go in the first round. And I'm going to pull up some rookie performances for you over the past, I think 5 to 7 years. So starting back 7 years ago, or I guess 8 years ago now, in 2015, Todd Gurley put up 16 points per game, RB5 in points per game. In 2016, Zeke put up 21.7 points per game, RB3 in points per game. In 2017, Alvin Kamara put up 20 points per game, running back 3. In 2017 as well, Kareem Hunt put up 18.4 points per game, running back 4. In 2017, again, Leonard Fournette put up 17.7 points per game, RB6. In 2018, Saquon Barkley put up 24.1 points per game and was the RB2 in points per game. 2019 didn't have a top 6 RB. That's fine. I think Miles Sanders was maybe the closest at RB15. 2020, James Robinson, 17.9 points per game, RB5. 2021, Najee Harris, 17.7 points per game, RB6. In 2022, if he didn't get injured, this number may have risen even higher, but it's Breece Hall, 16.4 points per game, RB8. That is a lot of running backs, rookie running backs, that is, finishing in the top 8 or higher. If you don't include Breece Hall, it's top 6 or higher. And of those, I'd say Zeke and Saquon are the most prominent backs coming out of college during their rookie year, and Bijan is that. He is the Zeke, he is the Saquon, he is that same back. He's huge, he is fast, he is fun to watch, and I think he is going to finish RB3 on the season. That's why I have him as my RB3. Rookies do perform really well, and I really think Bijan Robinson has that potential because of the offense that he's in. He's in a run first offense. They have Desmond Ritter as their quarterback. It's not like they have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback or Tom Brady as their quarterback. They have Desmond Ritter. Desmond Ritter is mobile, so he can also kind of help Bijan get those open holes. And not to mention that Atlanta Falcons have one of the most underrated offensive lines in the league. And I think that really helps Bijan. I mean, Tyler Algier last year, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, and no one really thought he would do that great. I mean, everyone had him as a sleeper, but he didn't. No one really wanted to pick him super high like everyone's wanting to take Bijan. He is still the handcuff, Tyler Algier is. And then Cordero Patterson is the third running back in this offense. I think them taking Bijan seventh overall, I think that just signifies that they want him on their team. They're going to give him the touches, and they're going to let Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson get touches here and there. Cordero Patterson can line up as wide receiver. Tyler Algier, I'm not worried about. Cordero Patterson probably in the receiving game. Bijan's a decent receiver, but he hasn't really shown much. But I think Bijan Robinson is going to be the RB3 this year, which is why I have him ranked third overall. Look out for him in your drafts. I'd honestly rather have him and JT over Christian McCaffrey because of the injury worry, but that's just me. I can't rank them ahead of McCaffrey. I tried, I thought about it, I just couldn't do it. Let's move on to RB4, Austin Eckler. Now, the reason I don't have him RB1 is because he was RB1 last year. He was RB1 last year at 372 points per game, or sorry, 372 points overall. If he was scoring 372 points per game, we might have the best fantasy player of all time on our hands. But he was the RB1 last year. The year before that, he put up really good numbers. I believe he was like around the RB2, RB3 range. And the year before that, he didn't have a great year, but in 2019, he had a pretty good year. And then 2018, kind of an average year, but he's been consistent 3 out of the last 5 seasons. He's been a top producing running back, which is why I have him as my RB4. There has never been back-to-back running back ones since LaDainian Tomlinson, which is why I could not put him as my running back one overall. And then having the other two guys just jump up the way they did, I just think they're better than Eckler. Although Eckler could have a really good year under Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, he had Tony Pollard, he had Zeke, and they both produced really good numbers in Dallas. It's just I'm a little worried about the age of Austin Eckler. He's 28 years old, 6 years in the league. And I'm going to go into why later I don't really like running backs that are older and have more experience in the NFL. They usually see a decline, but I'll go over that once we go through all my top 36 rankings. Now, running back 5. This guy's a part of my tier 2, and the running back 6 is a part of my tier 1, but there's a reason why I have them ranked the way they are right now. And my running back 5 is Nick Chubb. He is 5 years into the NFL, 27 years old. He had his best season yet last year. He's been pretty consistent over the past 4 years, maybe even 5 years. His whole time in the NFL, he's averaged around 200 points a year at least. So that's really good. I really want to go into his handcuff, though, because there's no one behind him. Jerome Ford and Demetric Felton Jr. Come on now. These guys aren't taking touches away the way Kareem Hunt did. I believe they're going to feed Nick Chubb the ball and just relentlessly keep giving him the ball because he can produce. And once again, this is another top O line in the league. My dad went into it in the quarterback episode. So did I a little bit, but my dad had a little better insight on it. They have really good guards. They have really good tackles. I believe they're going to be one of the better offensive lines in the league. And I really like Nick Chubb for that reason. They're going to feed him the rock. And I think he's going to get catches out of the backfield this year, too, which would be fun to see. But he's only 27 years old. He's not quite reached the age 28, 29 range, which I'm not a fan of. So is Christian McCaffrey. He's 27, which is why I kind of like Nick Chubb and Christian McCaffrey this year. But he is in my tier 2 because I have Saquon in my tier 1. Saquon is my RB6. He's finished RB1 in his rookie year, I believe. He had 385.8 points. Last year, he put up his second best season at 284 points. He is my RB6 because he's holding out. He is my tier 1, but he's holding out. He's holding out because he's contract. He wants more money. They're not going to pay him money. They're not going to give him a long-term guaranteed deal. This is the way the running back position is going nowadays. It's a sad sight to see, but I believe Saquon and Josh Jacobs are going to be holding out. They're already started holding out of training camp. Training camp started, and I believe it's going to keep going, and they're going to push it into the season. I really hope this doesn't go the full length like Le'Veon Bell's did, but these are super talented guys, and they're in their prime age range to break out even more. Josh Jacobs just had his best year last year, and Saquon's second best year, and they're only 26, 25 years old. I have Saquon at running back 6. I have Josh Jacobs at running back 7. And this is a tough scene to see because 2 of the top 7 running backs on my list are said to be holding out over contract extensions. Now, Austin Eckler is also on that list of kind of holding out, wanting to be traded, wanting more money, but I believe he's going to play. So I don't think we have to worry about Austin Eckler yet. I think Saquon and Josh Jacobs, them being in a contract year, they're going to hold out and they're going to prove that, hey, I'm worth this much. You're going to lose games to start the year. Emmitt Smith did it back in the 90s whenever he was on the Cowboys, but he proved that he really was worth that. He was the most valuable asset to that Cowboys team in the 90s, and he proved it. They started 0-2, and then they paid him. They didn't quite pay him what he wanted, but they still paid him good money to make him the top running back in the NFL pay wise. So, yep, Josh Jacobs running back 7, Saquon running back 6. Couple handcuffs. Saquon has Matt Breida behind him, and then Eric Gray, the rookie out of OU. I really like the rookie Eric Gray. I kind of like Matt Breida. He's just inconsistent, kind of injured. I'd rather draft the young guy, Eric Gray. You know, if you draft Saquon and want to handcuff him, you can draft Eric Gray, but I'd rather draft Saquon and probably draft Matt Breida if you're going to do that, because Matt Breida is technically the handcuff, but I really probably wouldn't draft either of these guys right now until we get more news. Excuse me. And Josh Jacobs, his handcuff is Zamir White. I really like Zamir White if you take Josh Jacobs, because they're going to give Zamir White the carries. He's in his second year. Everyone wanted him last year. He didn't do much because he didn't really get playing time. Josh Jacobs was one of the better running backs in the league. I believe he finished running back 3 or 4 on the year. So why would they take him off the field for Zamir White? Well, if Josh Jacobs doesn't play this year, Zamir White's going to get the touches. He's the handcuff. So if you end up drafting Josh Jacobs, get him later on as a steal in the second or third round because people don't want to take him because they're worried, then I'd say, oh yeah, draft Zamir White as a handcuff. But for now, I'm kind of staying away from Saquon and Josh Jacobs. Let's move on to my running back 8, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard had his best year last year, even though he didn't get all the carries. He had Zeke splitting time with him. And I think this year he has the potential to break out. He's in that age range, and I really like him, but I'm a little worried about his injury. I don't know how his leg's healing. We're going to see if he can actually start the year playing week 1, which would be awesome to see. I'm a Cowboys fan, so I want to see Tony Pollard on the field. It's just running back 8. I can't justify. There's better value in my opinion. And even right now, my rankings do not reflect the average draft position. I believe Tony Pollard's going ahead of guys like Nick Chubb. If I'm correct, let me check on that really quick. I actually think Tony Pollard is going ahead of Nick Chubb. Let's see here. Because I believe I saw this. Now, this is average draft position for PPR leagues. Yeah, so Nick Chubb has actually moved ahead of Pollard and Jacobs, but he's still behind Saquon. So he's RB6. I thought he was going a little lower, but I think you may be able to find value in Nick Chubb, which is why I really like him. Another guy I like is Najee Harris, Travis Etienne. Well, I'll get into the guys I really like later. But yeah, so Tony Pollard running back 8. His handcuff is Malik Davis, and then Ronald Jones is the third string, with the fourth string being the rookie Keyshawn Vaughn. Or sorry, not Keyshawn Vaughn. Man. Yeah, I can't remember that guy's name, but the rookie the Cowboys drafted. Okay, let's move on to running back 9, Ramondre Stevenson. out of New England. I'd really like Ramondre Stevenson to break out last year. He had his best year. Watches Damian Harris leave to go to the Bills. His only backups are Pierre Strong Jr. and Ty Montgomery. Ty Montgomery's an older back, kind of a reception back, played on the Packers, played on the Saints too, I believe. And Pierre Strong is a younger back. I believe he can eat into some touches, but they're not going to stop giving Ramondre Stevenson the ball. He is a bruiser and he can catch passes. I really like Ramondre Stevenson as long as Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette don't go there this year, because if they go there, his value is gonna see a significant reduction, and I'm not gonna have him as my RB9. It's just it'd be too high for him because I would see Fournette and Dalvin Cook eating into his touches. But without them there right now, man, I really like Ramondre Stevenson this year. He is one of the guys I am higher on because of the competition, lack of competition in his backfield. I really would like to see Ramondre Stevenson have a big year this year, which would be very crucial to the Patriots season. And let's get into my running back. Running back 10, Brees Hall. Like I said earlier, he's coming off an injury, which, hurts his value a little bit, but I think he's going too high. I have him as running back 10 just because of his potential, but I am not drafting him. I'd stay away. I'd rather go Najee Harris. That is the end of my tier 2. Brees Hall is the end of my tier 2. Like I said, he was averaging 16 points per game last year in fantasy, but it's just I just don't see him producing this year after he tore his ACL. He could prove me wrong and pull an Adrian Peterson and go for the running back 1 spot, but I don't think that's going to happen. Adrian Peterson was another animal. Going into my tier 3, I'm going to have Najee Harris starting that tier off. And he's 25 years old, 2 years in the league. His best year was his rookie year. He had 300 points that year. His best finish was RB3. He's shown us that he has RB3 upside, and he's going as the currently Najee Harris is going as the RB11. That is really good value. That's right where I have him ranked, actually. He's going as the RB11, and he can finish top 3. Give me some Najee Harris this year. I really like him. They upgraded their offensive line a little bit. Kenny Pickett's second year in the offense. They have George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth. I mean, they've got weapons. This year could be the year for Najee, but he does have to worry about Jalen Warren, his handcuff a little bit, because Jalen Warren looked extra productive last year whenever he was given a chance. Although, running backs in their year 3 have a really good year. Running backs in year 2 have a really good year besides Najee last year. Najee didn't have a really good year last year. However, I think that Najee can produce this year because of that upgrade at O-line, which is why I have him RB11. And now let's go into my RB12. It's going to be Travis Etienne Jr. on the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is only 24 years old, 2 years in the league. He missed an entire year because he was hurt. His rookie year, his second year in the NFL, he did pretty good last year. He had 205 points. I expect him to take a step up this year. This offense is even better than it was with Calvin Ridley coming into the mix. And I just think that could open up more on the ground game for Travis Etienne. He does have to worry about the rookie a little bit. His backup handcuff is Tank Bigsby, and then Jermichael Hasty's the third string. His top finish was RB17 last year. I think he can finish higher than that, which is why I'm ranking him at RB12. But for him to finish as a top 12 running back, he's going to have to show his production in the pass and the run game. And I think he can. He's shown his explosiveness at Clemson. We all know about the rapport that him and Trevor Lawrence have going back from the Clemson days. So I like Travis Etienne this year. I would be cautious about drafting him, but I would take him if he fell to me. Next up is my RB13, and some people may be freaking out. I actually had him lower than this, but I moved him up just because he is who he is. It's Derrick Henry. He is 29 years old, 7 years in the league. Usually after year six, you see a fall off in production. Well, that didn't happen last year for Derrick Henry at over 300 points in the season. His best finish is the RB3, which was in 2020. And I think he is not going to be able to finish top five this year. He's he's going to have a tough time doing so because of his age, I feel like. But it is Derrick Henry, so I'm not going to count him out, which is why I ranked him 13th overall. I would just be very cautious about drafting Derrick Henry. He's on my no draft list because I think you can do better at the running back position. Speaking of better, let's go into the next running back, Joe Mixon, who I think is a better pick than Derrick Henry. He's my RB14 this year. And Joe Mixon has lost Samaje Perine to the Denver Broncos as competition, which I think bodes well for Joe Mixon this year, and he can kind of explode. His backup running back, aka handcuff, is Chase Brown, the rookie, and then Travion Williams is third string. Are you really worried about either of those guys when Joe Mixon's in the backfield? Because I'm not. Joe Mixon has put up pretty good performances over his past 5 years. He's had season in 2021, RB4 at 288 points. This is PPR, by the way. And last year he kind of dipped down. He saw a lack of touchdown production last year, which I think if he picks that back up, maybe adds a couple receptions in the pass game, I think that he could kind of explode this year. Samaje Perine cut into his work. Samaje Perine caught like 4 or 5 touchdowns from Burrow, had about 300 or 400 yards receiving. Well, that's gone away. Is Joe Mixon going to be the guy that gets the majority of those? Say he gets half that at 150, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That just adds a lot more to his value. And then Chase Brown or Travion Williams can pick up the scraps behind him. But I really like Joe Mixon this year. And he's literally going so late. I don't understand why. He's RB14 going in the third round. If you can get Joe Mixon in the third round in your PPR draft, I'd take him. Next up is Aaron Jones. I had a tough time ranking him here because he's been super productive over the past 4 years. His most productive season was 2019 when he finished the RB2 behind Christian McCaffrey. He he's shown us that he can get it done. It's just he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers this year. He has Jordan Love. Will Jordan Love rely on him as a dump off guy? He could. AJ Dillon's also there. That's the handcuff in Green Bay. This is more of a two-headed backfield, but Aaron Jones has shown production. What worries me though is he's played 6 years in the league. He's 28 years old. This is when running backs decline around 28 years old, around 6 or 7 years in the league. So I'm kind of staying away from Aaron Jones this year. I would not fault you for drafting him, though. He's a very productive running back. Next up is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, my RB16 on this list. And like I said earlier, a lot of running backs have been productive over the past 7, 8 years with being in the top 6 or 8. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs can fit this bill. He's currently going as the RB. Where is he? Oh, man. Jahmyr Gibbs. This can't be right. Jahmyr Gibbs is going in the 5th round as the RB26 over the past 10 days. You've got to be kidding me. If he's going as the RB26, I mean, why not draft him? I have him as the RB16. He is a rookie. He's going to be splitting time with David Montgomery, but I mean, come on. He showed his production at Alabama, and he reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara. He's a lot of fun to watch. I think he can produce really well, really big time numbers in Detroit. That backfield last year had a ton of touchdowns, and DeAndre Swift looked super productive, but he just couldn't stay healthy all that much. Jamal Williams, scored like 17 touchdowns, which I expect David Montgomery to kind of to take that role. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be lined up in the slot. He's going to be lined up in the backfield. They're going to do a lot with him. They're going to get him touches because he is an explosive back. I can see him finishing top 16, which is why I have him 16th. Now, that's his floor, in my opinion. Like, if he's going RB26 in drafts, I mean, take him at RB26 because right now he's going behind guys named Cam Akers, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins, James Conner, Damian Pierce, DeAndre Swift, Alexander Madison. I mean, David Montgomery. I think he's going to be the better back in that backfield. So I have him ranked that way. Let's move on to my RB17. It's going to be J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is a little banged up because he had that offseason cleanup procedure on his knee. He's only 24 years old, though. He's been in the league 3 years, only played in 2 of those years, and he hasn't put up more than 200 fantasy points in a season. He has his highest finish his rookie year as RB24. He's shown us the potential. Are we buying it this year? I'm not too sure. With where he's going, maybe. I have him kind of high, and he's in that range to break out. It's just we need him to stay healthy, and they need to give him the touches. I don't like that they signed Melvin Gordon, but I just think it was more insurance, than kind of impeding on J.K. Dobbins' touches. I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to be the guy to do that. Gus Edwards would be, but Gus Edwards looks healthy too, so I just really hope J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy this year and they give him a lot of touches because I think he can be a really productive back. Let's move on to RB18 on my list. Halfway through, Damian Pierce. RB2s or yeah, RBs in year two are very, very productive. This is the year they boom. Brees Hall, year two. James Cook, year two. Damian Pierce, year two. This could be the year. Kenneth Walker, year two. One of them is going to explode this year, and someone who ranked him super high is going to be like, I told you so. Well, Damian Pierce has a lot of potential to do so because he's in Houston, and behind him, they did get some Devin Singletary this year, and then they also added Mike Boone, but Damian Pierce is one of the most fierce runners out there in the NFL. He finished RB27 last year. He didn't have a great offense last year. He comes in now. He has a really good offense. He's got CJ Stroud. He's got some decent wide receivers. They added Dalton Schultz at tight end. There's a brand new head coach in town. I think this is going to be a new look Texans offense, and I think Damian Pierce can benefit from that. He's got a lot of hype around him last year. So I think Damian Pierce has potential to explode in year two, and I want to see it. So let's move on to running back 19, Kenneth Walker. Damian Pierce is a guy I'm drafting for sure over J.K. Dobbins, in my opinion, even though I don't have him ranked that way. I just think Damian Pierce has a better potential at staying healthy. Kenneth Walker now is my RB19. He's younger than the two previous backs I just mentioned. He's only 22 years old. He was RB18 last year. They did draft Zach Charbonnet this year, but I still think it's the Kenneth Walker show in Seattle. I think Kenneth Walker has the potential to explode as well, but I'm being more cautious on drafting Kenneth Walker than I am Damian Pierce. I think Kenneth Walker has better potential at maybe losing some goal line touches to Zach Charbonnet, whereas Damian Pierce, I don't think he has potential at losing goal line touches to Devin Singletary. Damian Pierce is the better back in that backfield if you're going to talk about goal line running back, which is why I like Damian Pierce a little more. But let's move in. I think could absolutely go nuclear this year. They saw the departure of Dalvin Cook, and this guy's been backing up Dalvin Cook for years. And he finally gets his chance to shine this year. His ADP's been rising. This is around my tier 5 of running backs right now. He kicks off tier 5 with a bang. It's Alexander Mattison. He has not shown very good production. He's only finished highest as the RB39, but he's been backing up Dalvin Cook every year, so he can't produce. He's only 25 years old. This is the prime age range from 23 years old to 26 years old is the age range that you see the most breakout running backs. The average running back one age is 25 and a half years old. That's 230 plus PPR points. The average elite age is 24 and a quarter. That's 250 PPR points. So the most common ages are 24, 25. He fits that bill. He's 25 years old. And I think he's going to be truly elite. Truly elite production from a running back shows 250 plus PPR points in a year, 67.8% are between the ages of 23 and 26. Alexander Madison fits that bill. He is the RB1 in this offense. They have a rookie behind him, but I'm not too worried about him. The rookies, Dwayne McBride, he's third string. Ty Chandler is the backup. I'm not worried about either of them. I think Madison has the potential to go off, and him going this late in drafts, I think you got to take a flyer on him because if he pays off as a top 5 running back, that's a steal in your draft. Now, Miles Sanders is next up on my running back list. This is running back 21, and let's take a quick break real quick. All right. All right. Let's get back to it. Miles Sanders, RB21 on the year. For me, I think Miles Sanders has some opportunity to break out in this Carolina offense. He's got Chuba Hubbard as his handcuff, but I'm not too worried about him. Miles Sanders finished as the RB15 in his rookie year. He did really well last year, putting up his second most productive season. And they didn't really run him the full amount. They had Jalen Hurts on the ground stealing touchdowns. They had Kenneth Gainwell stealing touches. They even had other people in there stealing touches, and I just can't remember who, but I know they had other guys in there. They like to run the rotation backfield in Philly, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think he's going to be the clear lead back, and I don't mind drafting him at this position. If he's going, what's he going right now? He's currently ADP 27, RB 27, fifth round. I mean, my gosh, I wouldn't be mad if I took him at this late of a pick. Let's go into my RB22. It's going to be Cam Akers. Cam Akers is in that potential breakout age range. He just hasn't shown it. He's only finished RB35 as his highest finish, which is not great. I I think he could explode this year, but I'm a little optimistic. I don't know. He just hasn't shown anything. He showed at the end of last year, yeah, he had a couple good games. He had like 6 good weeks to end the year. But one of those games he went off for 32 where he scored 3 touchdowns. I don't know how often he's going to do that. He does have some competition in Kyron Williams and the rookie Zach Evans, and even Sony Michelle just got signed there this offseason. So I'm not a huge fan of Cam Akers this year. I'd stay away from him. I'd rather have Miles Sanders or James Conner, Alexander Madison. I'd rather have those guys in this range. It's just he's just not pulling the needle for me far enough to pull the trigger on him. But let's go into my next running back, RB23, James Conner. Now, this guy does not fit the age range. He does not fit the years, although he has been pretty productive. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, he will get hurt, but he is the clear lead back in Arizona, and he's going to get all the touches. It's just how long can he stay healthy for you? And that for that reason, that's why I'm kind of staying away from him. But he presents really good value if you need a running back at this range and you need a guy who can be consistent. He has finished before as the RB5 2 years ago. I mean, he's shown it. So why can't he do it again? We'll see if he can, but I'm staying away from James Conner. He's my RB23. RB24, this player does not currently have a team, but I'm hoping he goes to Miami to where he can be the lead back. It's going to be Dalvin Cook. He does not fit my year range. He barely sneaks into my age range at 27. He has declined over the past 2 years, coming off his best season in 2020, where he was running back one at 338 points that year. Dalvin Cook, I think he can produce in Miami, but I don't know how well he can produce. Surely he'll produce RB2 numbers for you, and I think that he can do great in Miami. It's just we got to figure out what team he's going to be on. If he's even going to be on a team, someone's got to sign him, and depending on where he goes, that's kind of going to affect his ranking. Ranked him at 24 because I believe he can be an RB2 in pretty much any offense that he goes to. We'll just have to wait and see where he goes. RB25 is DeAndre Swift, new look DeAndre Swift in Philadelphia, where he's going to have to split time with Kenneth Gainwell, in my opinion. And they also signed Rashad Penny. Right now, the depth chart reads DeAndre Swift RB1, Rashad Penny RB2, Kenneth Gainwell RB3. Kenneth Gainwell was one of the more productive running backs last year, although Miles Sanders absolutely went off last year. Like I said, second best season by Sanders in his career. Good news for DeAndre Swift is Rashad Penny really can't stay healthy. Sorry, I wish he could, but he just can't. Kenneth Gainwell could cut into some touches, but I believe this has to be the DeAndre Swift show. He is so explosive. He is so much fun to watch in Georgia. He fits that age range. He's only 24 years old. He's only been in the league 3 years. His highest finish is RB15. He's currently going around ADP running back 24, 25. I'd take him because he's shown us that he can get into the RB2 potential, and that's what you want in this range. You want guys who can potentially get into the RB2 or the RB1. You want guys that can get into the RB2 or the RB1 tier, and you're drafting them at 25th overall. Like that's what you want when you're drafting running backs this late. So DeAndre Swift, I'm a really big fan of, and I think he has the potential to break out this year. My RB26 is going to be Rachaad White. Rachaad White out of Tampa Bay. He doesn't have much competition there. He is a really good receiving back. So now that Fournette's gone, he should see a lot more touches in the receiving game. I know Fournette kind of stole some of those touches. They do have Chase Edmonds coming in and then Keyshawn Vaughn as the third string running back, but I don't think this is going to be a running back by committee. Rachaad White showed he was super productive last year. I think they're going to go with him. I'd be a little cautious about drafting him, but he fits that age range to break out. He is going into year 2, which is the prime year that running backs break out. So this late, why not take a flyer on him? I really like Rachaad White later in drafts. Next up, my RB27, a guy that I'm not a huge fan of, but Jamal Williams showed that this role can be productive last year. It's David Montgomery. Jamal Williams put up 17 touchdowns last year in this role in Detroit. And I think that, you know, David Montgomery has potential to do that, but I like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot more, which is why I'm kind of staying away from David Montgomery. If I don't get Jahmyr Gibbs, I'd rather go with guys like Rachaad White, DeAndre Swift, maybe even Alexander Madison, Miles Sanders later on. So staying away from David Montgomery, I urge you to do the same. He hasn't really showed a great production besides being running back 4 in 2020. He's declined each year since, and it's just not a good trajectory to be going on, especially now that he has to split carries with one of the more explosive rookie backs in the league. Next up, it's going to be A.J. Dillon as my RB28, the handcuff to Aaron Jones. And this is because he can be productive. He's shown over the past 2 years he goes for at least 160 points in a season. In 2021, he was actually RB23, which is huge because that gives you RB2 value, which, you get from a guy who backs up Aaron Jones. Now, this could be AJ Dillon's year to kind of take a bigger role, but I'm not sure that happens yet. Aaron Jones was one of the more productive running backs last year. They just had to split touches. So the big reason you want to roster AJ Dillon is in case Aaron Jones goes down, then you have the handcuff, and that guy's he's gonna be an RB1. I mean, if Aaron Jones goes down, AJ Dillon gets all the work. He's going to be an RB1, and that's why you're really drafting him right here as a handcuff later on. He's going as he's ranked as my RB28. I think he's probably going even lower than that, but I simply have him ranked that high because I think he's going to RB30. He numbers, running back 1 numbers if Aaron Jones gets hurt. That's the reason you're drafting AJ Dillon here. He's a solid handcuff to have, and personally, I drafted him last year. He had some good weeks, but I also had Aaron Jones, so kind of played it safe. You can do that this year, but I'm just kind of staying away from this Packers backfield because it's a new look offense with a new quarterback. I just don't know what to expect from this offense quite yet. It's a very young offense, and yeah, we'll look to see what AJ Dillon can do. I'm going to go into my RB29. It's going to be Isaiah Pacheco. Not much more to say. Very explosive year last year. He's got to split time with Jerick McKinnon, though, which is why I'm a little cautious having this low. He's my RB29, though. Like I said, year 2 running backs boom. If you want to take a shot late, take Isaiah Pacheco. Let's go on to my running back 30, the guy that is ranked this low because of a looming possible suspension. It's going to be Alvin Kamara. He's also not in the age range I like. I'd personally stay away from Alvin Kamara this year because also I think he's going to get suspended by the NFL. While he reached a plea deal in court, he still can be suspended by the NFL. He avoided an automatic suspension, but he can still be suspended. So we'll see what the Alvin Kamara situation looks like. I just don't see him putting up running back one numbers like he did in 2020. And let's move on to my RB31, Javonte Williams, who's been climbing up draft boards. I mean, over the past 10 days, he's actually being drafted as the, let's see here. Javonte Williams is the RB24 in drafts over the past 10 days. And he's my RB31 mainly because of his ACL tear last year, ACL and LCL. I'm just a little worried about how productive he can be when he comes back, but I mean, getting him in the seventh round, eighth round, I don't mind that. I'd be more than happy with drafting Javonte Williams around there. But currently, he's not going that low. He's going in round four, 24th overall, which is a little concerning. But he has huge upside. If I were to draft him, I would definitely handcuff Samaje P. Ryan. Samaje P. Ryan is in my top 36, and we'll get into him in a second. But yeah, Javonte Williams, RB31, could creep up more. He could make some really big headlines in the training camp and during the preseason. So let's move on to my RB32, James Cook, a running back two or running back in year two that produced last year as the RB44. He had Devin Singletary ahead of him. He has Damian Harris behind him, Latavius Murray behind him, two productive backs behind him. But James Cook, I believe, is going to be very productive. Sadly, Naeem Hines got hurt. You know, he's going to be out for the whole year. He got hit by a jet ski as he was sitting stationary on his. It's just a horrible injury. I'm pretty sure he tore his ACL. He's going to have season-ending surgery. But that was the guy I was worried about taking away receptions from James Cook, but I'm not worried about Damian Harris or Latavius Murray taking away receptions. Now let's move on to my RB33, Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is my RB33 because he's not listed as a starter, but he is the most explosive back in that backfield, maybe besides Roschon Johnson, the rookie. But Deontay Foreman is the starter. Khalil Herbert's listed as the backup. Roschon Johnson is listed as the third string. I just think Khalil Herbert has that upside, which is why I'd take him and have him RB33. I like taking late round flyers on Khalil Herbert and James Cook. My RB34 is going to be Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson are going to have a two-headed backfield in Washington this year. Another guy that is also behind him, I believe, is Chris Rodriguez Jr., but I'm not too worried about that guy. Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson are the top two backs in this offense. And I think that them two are going to be the more productive backs. I'm staying away from this backfield, though. I don't want either of them. I'd rather have Samaje P. Ryan. Next up is Jamal Williams in New Orleans. Now, the reason I ranked him as the 35th running back is because of Alvin Kamara's suspension. If Alvin Kamara is suspended, Jamal Williams is the running back one. And Jamal Williams showed last year that he can put up really good numbers. He finished as the RB13. You're getting him at like a super late pick right now. What's he at? Jamal Williams is currently going RB37. So I have him ranked two spots ahead of that. And I think he can produce as an RB2 if Alvin Kamara is hurt. Kendre Miller is a guy you got to worry about. He's a rookie out of TCU. I'm not too worried about him right now, though. He's actually on the PUP list, I believe. I think he's hurt, but I think he'll come back and back up or be the third string back. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Kendre Miller. I mean, he could eat into touches, but Jamal Williams shown he can produce and he can score touchdowns. So I don't mind drafting him as an RB35. My last running back in the top 36 is going to be Samaje Perine. And last year he had his best year as RB34. I just think he was backing up Joe Mixon the whole time. If he actually gets touches as the RB1 in this Denver offense, he's got, Javonte Williams to worry about, but he's also got Tony Jones behind him. Not super worried about Tony Jones. I think Samaje Perine can show some great production, even though he's 27 years old. Wouldn't mind taking him as a handcuff to Javonte Williams. That's really why I have him here. So that's my top 36 running backs. I know it's a long list. If you're still listening to this point, I really appreciate it. I'm going to go into the age factor right now. So, running back one production, top 12 production shows 85% of peak seasons are players between the age of 22 to 28 years old. Truly elite production, which is 250 plus PPR points, 67%, 67.8% is between the ages of 23 and 26. So that narrows it down a little more. That shows you some elite production are those ages. While up to 28 years old, you can show a top 12 production of a season. 96.6% take place of 96.6% of a player's breakout seasons take place prior to them turning 29 years old. The only 29-year-old this year is Derrick Henry, and there's no other reason why. I mean, this is the way the NFL is going. This is why no one can get paid at this position. 29 or older, you're pretty much banned. I mean, you're cut. Like Zeke, you're done. Year 7, year 8, you're done. Derrick Henry's going into year 8. Zeke would have been going into year 8. Zeke's not on the team right now. Derrick Henry, I mean, we could see a massive fall off, or we could see him simply produce again. I mean, the guy's a freak of an athlete. No one is the size of that guy. So I don't think I wouldn't put it past him on performing again, but we'll just wait to see. The average elite age, like I said, 24.7 years or 24.75 years, produced 250 plus PPR points. Excuse me. The most common age is 25, 24-year-olds. Year 1 to year 2, though, the breakout year for running backs. 42% boost in production. The only outliers are Saquon and Zeke, who had insane rookie years. Running backs who fail to break out after 2 years should be sold in Dynasty, aka J.K. Dobbins, aka DeAndre Swift. Now, year 7 running backs production dip. This is Eckler, CMC, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, James Conner, Kamara, Fournette, Dalvin Cook. Year 8 nosedives into irrelevancy. Zeke, Derrick Henry. Year 7s who finished top 5 like Henry did last year averaged 219 PPR points, which would be the running back 15, which is why I have him running back 13, and I debated him ranking him even lower than that, but it's Derrick Henry, so he made me raise him. It made me raise him higher. Damian Harris has never had more than 23 targets in a season, which is why I'm not worried about him taking targets away from James Cook. With Naeem Hines hurt in season-ending injury, I really like James Cook even more this year. I think he can be super productive in the pass game, which is what you want out of PPR running backs, especially guys going later in drafts. So yeah, draft James Cook later in your drafts for sure. Now, Devin Singletary also in this offense had 52 targets last year. That's all going to go to James Cook now that Naeem Hines isn't there. Damian Harris and Latavius Murray are not taking those targets away. Like I said, Damian Harris, no more than 23 targets in a season. I wonder why. Ramondre Stevenson had more than him last year. Now, let's get into draft strategies. You can go hero RB or zero RB. Hero RB, one second. Hero. Hero. Hero RB. Test, test. Hero RB. I don't know what just happened. Hero RB is where you draft a running back with your first 2 picks and you pretty much load up on running back to start the draft, and you wait on receivers, wait on quarterbacks, wait on all the good stuff later. And zero RB, you get your pass catchers early. You get your wide receivers early, maybe even a tight end, maybe even a QB early, and then you start taking your running backs. I don't recommend this strategy. I kind of recommend the robust running back strategy. Get an elite wide receiver round 1 and let the other running backs fall to you, like Nick Chubb in round 2. Um, Josh Jacobs, maybe, even though I'm a little worried about him holding out. Let him fall to you. Let Ramondre Stevenson fall to you. Let Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, let those guys fall to you. Excuse me. So that's kind of robust running back. Let the elite running backs fall to you and draft pass catching running backs as well. Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Brees Hall, Ramondre Stevenson. They all catch passes, a lot of passes. And then you can get a guy like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, round one. And then, yeah, so that's kind of why I like this strategy the most this year. Because Hero RB, you're going to be drafting CMC, Eckler. I don't mind drafting Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, but you can get those guys in the second round, even possibly. So I'd wait personally. I'd take wide receiver first pick. I have the 1-1. I'm drafting Jamar Chase, or sorry, I'm drafting Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase at the 1-2, and really after that, I'd be between Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, and maybe Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. It's around the third or fourth pick, you're not going to get Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase if those guys are going 1 and 2. But I really like Justin Jefferson this year. He would be my first pick every year. He was my first pick at the third spot last year, and it paid off. I mean, the guy is just insane at his production. So I like this robust running back strategy. Let guys fall to you in the second, third round, maybe third or fourth round. Guys like Najee Harris and stuff like that. So I actually did two mock draft examples. So first mock draft, I had the second overall pick in a 12-team league, and I went hero RB. I drafted Bijan first, Brees Hall second, and then my wide receivers were Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley. Then I drafted Justin Herbert. Then I drafted Drake London, Evan Ingram, and then let my running backs fill in behind with Javonte Williams, Elijah Mitchell, and that is my hero RB strategy. I still got decent wide receivers in Calvin Ridley and Jalen Waddle, which, I mean, great productive receivers. Calvin Ridley has the potential to be a wide receiver one this year. And this is my zero RB strategy. Second overall pick, 12-team league. I drafted Miles Sanders and J.K. Dobbins as my RB1 and 2. A little scary, but my wide receivers are stacked. I've got Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown to go along with my flex spot. I've got Chris Olave. Then I also drafted Justin Fields and Evan Ingram at tight end. And then I also took Javonte Williams later, Elijah Mitchell later, Jalen Warren later as well. Maybe Najee gets hurt. Maybe I have that guy to, explode. So now let's go into my sleepers, breakouts, and busts. I'll make these kind of quick because I know this has been a long episode with my top 36 rankings. Sleepers, James Cook, Alexander Madison, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift. For where they're going right now, they're not going high enough. I like James Cook, Alexander Madison because they're kind of going to be the lead guys. Joe Mixon is going to be the only guy in his backfield. DeAndre Swift falls in with Madison and James Cook. Swift, Madison, and Cook could lose touches to their RB2, and Damian Harris, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny, Latavius Murray, Ty Chandler, and I think Dwayne McBride also. But Joe Mixon has Chase Brown, the rookie behind him. He doesn't have Samaje Perine. I think they're going to give him the bulk of the carries. Breakouts this year: Najee Harris, Damian Pierce, and Bijan Robinson. I think Najee Harris is going to have an excellent year this year. I really like taking him in round 3 if you can get him there. Same with Damian Pierce. You can get him probably in round 4 or 5, I think. I think Damian Pierce currently is going around 4, RB21. I'd take him there. He has the potential to explode. Like I said, year 2 running backs will explode for you, and you just got to pick the right ones. It's tough to do, but I think Damian Pierce is that guy this year that explodes in year 2. And next up, Bijan Robinson. I have him RB3 for a reason. I think he can be a top 3 running back. He's going to get the bulk of the carries in Atlanta. Why else would they draft him number 7 overall? Give me Bijan all day, every day, especially in round 1. He is one of the only running backs I want to take besides Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Saquon, Josh Jacobs that could go in round 1 too. And busts: Derrick Henry, Brees Hall, Cam Akers. I said Cam Akers was going to bust last year. He finished RB35. Brees Hall, I wish, I think he can do well, but I'm worried about his ACL injury, which is why I'm having him as a bust. Derrick Henry, like I said, age declining. Got to put him in my bust category. That's really it for the running back position, guys. I hope you like this episode. I think some top running backs to draft in the first round this year with the potential holdout situation looming over Josh Jacobs and Saquon. It's got to be Nick Chubb, got to be Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson. Can't go wrong with McCaffrey or Eckler, but I put Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan as my top three targets. Now that Saquon and Josh Jacobs are holding out, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey would follow. Ramondre Stevenson would probably still be behind Josh Jacobs and Saquon. Same with Brees Hall. But those are kind of the tier 1, 2 guys I'd look at if you don't want to take Josh Jacobs or Saquon. And if you do take those two, just remember in New York, Matt Breida and Eric Gray as the handcuffs. And then in Las Vegas, Zamir White is the key handcuff for Josh Jacobs. That's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you really like this running back episode. Like I said, I'll be posting my newsletter with all of the age information and graphs. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, go subscribe right now. You can find it on my Instagram, on my link tree, and hit that subscribe button. It's free. You get all my weekly newsletters during the season. It's going to give you a lot of optimal lineups during the year for daily